Let's go, fire away.
Okay, awesome. So obviously you've done, stand up before, but you're also famous for being involved in The Daily Show as a correspondent and as a guest host lately. And that has, a writer's room where people can collaborate and kind of help craft the comedy we see on screen. So I
Yes.
was wondering, because you're on your stand-up tour right now, do you have a preference between kind of writing solo and performing solo, or kind of collaborating with creative professionals?
If I had to choose for performing, I would say I love working alone. I think every
Mm,
comedian is a nomad, and if I could choose one thing the rest of my life, it would be to work alone. That being said, support the writers during the writer's strike. They do a lot of great work, and it'd be nothing without that White House Correspondents' Dinner. I did not do that by myself. I had writers for that. A lot of my stand up I do alone, but if I had to choose, that's a tough one. It's just with the writing and the creative, it's like cooking.
mm,
When you're working with people who are good in the kitchen and know what they're doing, you're gonna make a great product. But when you're
yeah,
working with someone who doesn't agree with you on the ingredients, then nobody's happy.
yeah. I
So I'd
that
rather
is
be in the
fair.
kitchen alone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're a good cook then, I take it.
Yes.
Okay. So what are, because obviously you juggle both, what are the challenges between going back and forth between those two types of work?
I think the biggest challenge in working alone versus working with other people is just making sure that the best idea is what gets to the top and that you're
Mm,
not married to your idea
mm.
the most. And even when you work alone, you have to be willing to accept that you can be better than the first thing you've created. So you have to push yourself to try and top the jokes that you already have on the page.
Yeah. That makes total sense to me. Also, people often don't necessarily know that there are writers behind that, or different people trying to collaborate. So I think it's always interesting to hear different perspectives on that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the job of the performer is to make anything that's written seem like it wasn't.
Mm,
And I think that's really part of the magic of television as a whole, be it what we do at The Daily Show with political satire
mm.
or what anyone else does, with like scripted TV shows. It should feel and look natural at all times.
Yeah. And going off of the Daily Show, and then I'll get into your stand-up stuff, but I feel like I have to ask you about this. It said you guys get to say stuff that we wish we could say as journalists, which is 1000% confirmed true all the time. And I know you started off studying journalism, which I found really interesting. And I did a little background, and I know you had said there was this one guy, I forget his name, I'm not good with sports, but the one guy on ESPN, and you liked
Stuart
him.
Scott,
Yes, yeah,
who started in Florida, who was in Florida for quite a while early on in
yeah,
his career.
because he had this candor that you don't typically get. So obviously you can see how journalism can shape a news satire show, but also how does it shape your stand-up as well?
I think at the end of the day, stand up comedy is one of the rawest forms of journalism.
Mm,
As a comedian, your job is to either report on your feelings or report on the world and the things that you see.
yeah.
And I think through both of those prisms, we can see a piece of ourselves, the viewer, the people, the consumer of that content.
Mm,
So, for me to have a journalism degree and then also and go do the most primitive form of reporting, which is
mm,
live comedy, kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage. And to watch people like Stuart Scott early on be their authentic selves, even when they knew that there was an audience that may not completely understand how you're bringing yourself to the conversation.
mm,
That was pivotal to give me the confidence to stay the path and not pretend to be something that I truly wasn't for
mm.
the sake of social acceptance.
Yeah. And I think because some people are not as familiar with your stand-up, and obviously you've had several on Comedy Central. So how would you say that's a departure from, the new satire world? Because I know you've described yourself as a cranky, charismatic comic, where you don't necessarily comment on all of this news shit. Sorry, news stuff
Yeah.
that's going on, and you're doing all of that. So what can people kind of expect?
I want the people of Orlando to come out and have a good time. I work on a political show. My act is not political. If you hate self checkout, come see me. If you're tired of everything being flaming hot, come see me. If you're
Mm,
tired of paying extra for sauces when you get nuggets, come see me. I have two shows. I'm performing 2 nights in a row. I'm
mm,
performing Friday night and Saturday night. So that
mm.
means Friday night you can bring your spouse. That means Saturday night you can bring the person you're actually in love with and like actually enjoy being around.
Amazing.
I'm a
I love
family comedian.
yeah, exactly. For the kids. Yeah. Bring the
Yeah.
kids too. Yeah. That's awesome. And then, speaking of Florida and you're coming to Orlando, I know you went to Florida A&M, which is a historically Black university in Tallahassee. So can you tell me what performing in Florida has kind of taught you about comedy? And also, what is the audience reception in Florida like? Is it different than other places or same?
I'm so sorry. I did not silence my phone, and I know it's my mom, and she'll keep calling.
Oh,
Mom is relentless.
I
All right, I'll
feel
take it. All right, I'll take it from my answer. Here we go.
that.
Florida is hands down the most diverse place within age and race in America. And to start my stand up comedy career performing in Tallahassee, I used to come down and do Winter Haven. Shout out to Altamont Springs. I
Yeah.
used to be over in Fanning Springs, over on the Gulf Coast side, off the state roads where nobody's supposed to be. In Florida, every freeway exit is a different nationality. Every county is a different age bracket. You can go down to Miami Beach and perform for the youngins, and you can be 20 minutes up the freeway in Boca Raton for the rich people. You can be a little bit further up the beach. It gets a little older. Then you get up to Jacksonville, and people get real and tell you exactly how life is, and you out that glitz and glamour. You can go over to the West Coast to Fort Walton Beach. I've been at Howl at the Moon. Shout out to everybody over there. So, from the Panhandle to the Keys, I did it in the state of Florida. So, I'm excited to be able to come back to Orlando for the first time, really in about 15 years. It's been a
Really?
lot. I've played Tampa quite a bit in my career, but
Yeah.
Orlando has always been a tough city to crack because the comedy standards there are high.
Mm,
And it's a city that you're not invited to be able to come to and perform
mm,
until the club and the people of Orlando, let's keep it 100, until they feel like you're ready.
yeah.
So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to even have the tickets rolling off the shelves like they are right now. We're getting ready to add a second show for Friday night, as a matter of
Okay.
fact. So, we're gonna have a good time in Orlando.
Yeah. I love that. And also all those places, like, we cover those all the time. And I don't think people understand that the comedy scene in Orlando is so big and expansive and diverse, like you said. Because obviously Florida's this purple state and we hear about DeSantis, but we don't hear about the actual people of the state and what they would want to hear in a comedy set.
Well, and people have to remember that because Florida is diverse, if you're a comedian that's starting in Florida, you have to have an act that's able to touch a lot of different types of people at the same time, or else
Mm,
you're not going to be well rounded. I would argue that Florida, from a diversity standpoint for comedy, it is as diverse a place to start stand up as New York City.
mm,
Much larger, much wider. I'm not saying there's a city in Florida like New York, but if you go from the Cubans down there, in South Florida and the Dominicans, and then you get up the coast and you start getting into more black folks. You start getting into rednecks. I've always joked that Florida is the only place where you need to have a joke for somebody who got gold teeth and somebody who got no teeth,
or
because
both.
they liable to both be in the audience that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So you best have a joke that prepares you for the spectrum of demographics. And so,
Mm.
I got jokes for all of that. So, I want everybody to come out to the improv.
Yeah. So do you cater to, specific places when you go there, or is it more of, like you were saying, all of your jokes are kind of inclusive and expansive?
I mean, the bigger part of your act, of course, you're going to have certain topics that you want to come in and talk about. But I think there's also, like, I may talk about parenting and gun control everywhere I go, but I'll pop into town and read the paper and see what's going on and
Yeah.
see what's happening with the magic,
Yes.
see what's
They're
going on with the
they're not doing good.
miracle.
Not
What
doing
are they up to? Miracle doing a lot better,
yeah.
so there's conversations also to be had about Ron DeSantis versus Disney if I feel like it. So
Mm,
you always want to be in touch with what people are going through locally and
yeah,
come in and report on that because that's what a real journalist would do.
yeah. I love that. Also, as I do stand up and improv, and being like on the Daily Show has always been my dream as a little girl. So, on a
Wow.
personal note, talking to you is like literally a dream come true. So thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
But I love how you say it kind of all, comes together and it meshes together, because what comedians are doing is they're philosophizing. They're showing us how we all come together as one, or how we're similar, and we have all these similar aspects. So
Yeah.
is that kind of like your comedy is more of trying to bring people together?
Well, I've always just thought of my stand up, my jokes as my jokes. I think once you start
Mm,
setting goals, societal goals for your jokes beyond just making somebody laugh, I think you get into some dicey waters because it's
mm,
not necessarily your job to decide how someone receives the material.
mm.
My job is to write it, hope it's funny. If you get it, great. If not, I got another joke coming around the corner.
Yeah, sure.
Everything beyond that, that's sink or swim because there's jokes that I wrote just for a laugh that are extremely disruptive and they were never written with that intention either.
Mm. Um, that kind of leads to my next question, because I watched the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I thought you did a fantastic job. But the one joke about the school shooting really stood out to me, because you made a comment about it after, you had obviously a quick recovery, because it's like, past legislation if you're going to groan at that. But you had a quote in an article, it may have been the LA Times or something, but you said not everybody has the same comedy IQ. So when you're playing to crowds, are you trying to kind of feel out what their comedy IQ is, or are you hoping that people meet you at whatever level, or is it kind of a mixture of both?
I don't think you can perform worried about who's going to get the joke. I
Mm,
wrote the joke, it's funny to me. If you
yeah.
don't get it, then maybe you'll get the next joke.
Mm,
But I'm not going to take a joke and slow it down and dumb it down and add extra words and really walk you through it nice and slow just
yeah.
so you can get a laugh when I know that there's other people in the room that could appreciate the joke in a much more concise, quick, and simple fashion.
Sure.
So there's days where the jokes are going to be sushi and there's days the jokes are going to be chicken nuggets.
Mm,
And you might not be a sushi person. That's fine. I got a chicken nugget coming around the corner, but I'm not going to put a chicken nugget on a piece of sushi
yeah.
because you didn't get the joke.
Yeah.
Um, and that's part of what I enjoy because it's like a word puzzle sometimes because you can do a joke that's very small, very minute,
Mm,
and either you got it or you didn't.
mhm,
If we're talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that's a great example. I made a joke near the beginning of the show about Dominion and the defamation lawsuit and how Dominion is as deadly in the courtroom as Cardi B or Gwyneth Paltrow. You're going
yeah.
to lose
Yeah.
if you go up against any of those three. Now, if you don't know that Cardi B had a defamation suit last year, that's not, I don't have time to explain that to you. And
Sure.
if you don't know that Gwyneth Paltrow had a defamation suit, I don't have time to explain that to you.
Yeah.
But the thought is that the people who get Cardi B can connect the dots and understand that Gwyneth Paltrow is the third beat in that joke, and
Mm,
vice versa.
sure.
So you just have to trust the intelligence of the audience. But comedy, of course, is more fun when people are thinking and focused and not
Mm,
in their phones and over analyzing everything.
yeah. And you could also make the argument, even if the people within that room didn't understand the joke, now in the age of the internet, it's going to be on YouTube, and there is going to be a whole comment section of people who understand and enjoy the joke.
Correct. Exactly. And
Mm,
and that's like the secondary life for a joke where a joke can live on.
yeah. Interesting. Also, you were speaking about you got to cater to if you have no teeth or gold teeth or all of this. So why is it important to, take stand up as everyone does around the nation and kind of go to different places and try it out?
I think that everybody deserves the gift of laughter. So anywhere people want to show up to see me talk, I'm going to go. So, that's what this Happy to Be Here tour is all about, is that the irony of it is that I really am. happy to be in these places. I don't care where I go. I
Mm.
just have some electricity and some lights, bro, and a place for me to stand,
Yeah.
and we'll get the show done.
Yeah. And maybe a mic if you can. Yeah.
Maybe, but if
Yeah.
not, I hey, we gotta make it work tonight.
Sure. Yeah.
Gotta
Uh,
do all the jokes that require projection.
yeah, of course. And I don't know if this still rings true, but I've, read in a previous interview that you initially didn't want to follow in the footsteps of your father because, he did basically what you're doing, but in a non-comedic way. He was kind of
Yeah.
talking to a bunch of people. And so how have your emotions around that changed over the years? And what are your emotions when you do stand up now?
I'd say that a lot of what I do, you know, is it honors my father's mission, which was to
Mm,
educate people about the truth of what's happening to Black people in this country.
mm,
Some of it we can laugh at, some of it we can cry about, but it's all rooted in facts.
mm,
And I'm just here to make you laugh about it and think about it a little more critically when you leave the venue. That's something that I had to kind of resign myself to. I think we have to grow into our destinies.
mm,
And had I chosen that path for myself of being the super righteous, yell at the camera, and this is what you need to do, and y'all wrong,
mm.
it wouldn't have come across as genuine. I'm
Yeah.
far too jokey
Mm,
to be that serious.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a good thing. It's
Yeah.
it's a good thing where I'm very happy about where I've settled into.
Sure. And, you kind of answered this with this last question, but what do you hope people take away? Obviously a night of laughter, anything else
That's
from the
it.
stand up? Yeah.
I want people to come out and laugh. The rest of it is up to you.
Mm,
What you get from it is what you choose to get from it. You might get nothing.
yeah.
You might just want to come and laugh and go home. And that's it.
Yeah.
But, Orlando is one of the first places where I used to perform when I slept in my car. Shout out to the Flying J right there when the turnpike starts north of the city,
Yeah.
south of Ocala. So I know my Flying J's. I know where they all are. Um, so yeah, I'm anxious to get back to the state of Florida,
Yeah. I
which
love
is
that.
something that not a lot of people will say publicly.
No, of course not. I do not like to tell people I'm from Florida. That's the last fact. Yeah.
How do you think I feel? I'm from Alabama.
Oh, yeah, true. So you got both of these things on your back.
Oh yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, perfect. It looks like it's running out of time. Those were all the prepared questions I had. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Oh no, this is great. You are so amazing, and God bless you for starting comedy in Florida.